Hi everyone, I'm Jane, and today I am going to show you some techniques to paint an abstract face like this one. Now I know that this one turned out a little scary, he's a little on the zombie side, and if you don't want the face that you paint to be scary or zombie-ish, that's totally okay. Now I paint abstract faces like this a lot, and one of the reasons that I do, and I think one of the reasons that they have such an almost ominous type quality to them is because I use paintings like this as kind of an emotional outlet. So if I'm feeling anxious or stressed or upset about something, a lot of times I will turn to these abstract portraits because I feel like for me it's a really good catharsis. And I think that that's why they usually end up looking quite dark. So this painting video is not so much about how to do this. It's how to use some simple techniques and really free yourself up to paint a face abstractly. A lot of times when people are trying to paint a face, even if they want to do abstract, they get hung up on details. And so I'm going to show you how not to get hung up on details. This is very free form. There's zero planning. There is no planning except for the colors that I wanted to use because I know that those colors are going to impart the feeling that I want imparted. Put a little bit more attention into the eyes or shape them different if you want more of a vibrant, smiling type expression. The same thing with the mouth. Ever since I got back from LA from the Next Up competition, I've been under a lot of stress. So while I was gone, everything that I needed to do, it just piled up and waited for me to get back. So that's one of the main reasons that your video is so late this week. So because I've been under a lot of stress, I've been getting a lot of tension headaches, I haven't been sleeping quite as well, and so I feel like it's a good thing that I waited to do this abstract face after I got back from LA. LA was amazing. The Next Up competition was so fabulous. I met some of the coolest creators ever, and we all collaborated and worked together. I had several of them in my video, which I'll be uploading in the next week or so. And I was in several of their videos. I helped set up sets and tear down sets, and we learned so much. It was just fabulous, and I would love to do it again, but at the same time, I'm glad it's over because they were crazy, long, busy, exhausting days. But in the next couple of weeks, I will be receiving my order of new video equipment that I also got as a prize for being one of the Next Up contestants. They gave us a $2,500 voucher to B&H Photo, and I got a new camera and some audio recording, some lighting. And so once I get all of that and get my studio at home set up, you guys are gonna see a huge difference in my videos. I've got a couple things up my sleeve that I'm not wanting to talk about just yet, but I think that it's really gonna help improve your experience of learning how to paint while I'm doing the video. So you only have one or two more videos of this old setup. For today's painting, I'm gonna use the following colors: titanium white, Mars black, burnt umber, primary blue, and cadmium red light hue, which is really more orange than red. Now I say those are the colors that I'm gonna use because that's the feeling that I want to impart on my abstract face. So think about the type of feeling or emotion or expression you want the face to have, and then pick colors that you feel fit that well. And it really doesn't matter what colors you use. Use any colors that you like. And I'm gonna use the following brushes: a 1-inch flat brush, a 1/2-inch angle brush, and a round brush. And this one is, I think it's just under 1/4 of an inch. It doesn't really matter, any size that you're comfortable with. You just want a smallish one so that you can make little detail lines later on. And today I'm painting on a 12 by 16-inch canvas board. Now as you can tell, my canvas board is old. It's been painted on numerous times. I just kind of slapped a little bit of gesso on it. I didn't even worry about covering the entire thing. You can paint on any type of canvas you like, a brand new one, an old one. You don't even have to gesso an old painting if you don't want to. You can just paint right over the top of it. So to paint our abstract face, we're gonna do this probably a little different than what you think. Instead of going and drawing the face, we're gonna paint in the face and then draw it. So I know that sounds kind of backwards, but I feel like if I draw the face first, then I have a hard time filling in the colors in a really abstract, kind of free-flowing way. And that's really what I wanna do here. I want to make painting this face a very expressive thing. And so I don't want you guys to get hung up on, oh, my eye looks weird, or my nose is too big, or whatever. Because it's abstract, it doesn't have to be in proportion. It doesn't have to actually look like a real face. Just use the colors that you choose, take a feeling, and put it on the canvas. That's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna use my angle brush, and I've got all of my colors here. And I'm not gonna clean off my brush at all while I paint in the face. I know I have blue and orange, and that might make some of you cringe because we all know when blue and orange mix together, you get yuck. But I'm also using brown and black and white, and the cool and the warm tone, which is what I typically like to do when I paint an abstract face. I like a cool and a warm color. All of those colors together are gonna create a really dynamic shadow and light system. Every time you go back for more paint, grab some more random colors. The only thing I'm gonna tell you to really concentrate on while you're painting is where you want your shadows and your lights. So obviously you're gonna use a little bit more black and maybe some more brown in your shadow areas and more white in your highlight areas. Also, because I have a cool and a warm tone, the cool tone tells the viewer that that part is in a shadow, and the warm tone tells you that it's in light. So if there's an area where I say I want it to be in shadow under his eye, then I'm probably gonna use a little more blue, brown, and maybe some black. If I want a highlight on the nose, then I'll probably use some orange, brown, and white. But you don't have to have a highlight on the nose or a shadow under the eye. You can flip that around. Do it however you want to. So I'm gonna take my angle brush and wet it in the jar and wipe it off on the edge. And if you need more water as you're going, go ahead and get more water. I probably won't get more water. I'm just gonna paint and get it on there. Now here's one other thing I'm gonna do. Because I don't want you guys to really focus on details, I want you to focus on feeling. I'm gonna paint in this entire face without time lapse because I want you to see how much time I'm putting into it. I hear a lot from you guys, you make it look so easy, and really this may look like one of those times, but I'm doing this quickly so that I don't allow myself to focus on details, and this is what I want you to do, okay? So I've got my brush, and I'm just gonna grab some colors. I think I'm gonna grab some brown, some blue, maybe a hint of white, maybe a little more blue. So I've just kind of got a color like that. When I paint an abstract face, for me, it's easier to decide where I want all of the other features to go if I start with an eyebrow. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna use my brush flat and paint out kind of where an eyebrow is gonna be. And then I'm gonna bring that down into a nose shape. And I think I'll get some orange and some brown. And I'm gonna do another eyebrow. And see, every time I'm going back for colors, I'm getting different color mixtures. I think I'm gonna throw a little bit of black into there. And just say that there's an eye in here. And maybe there's another eye in here. And I think the lips are right about in here. And I'm using my brush on my edge here on the lips, but it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna actually throw just a hint of black in there. So there's where my basic face is gonna be. And just kind of start detailing a little bit. So my nose is going to be about like that. I like a little bit of a cheekbone on at least one side. You can do it on both sides if you like. And then we'll kind of start filling in the other areas. I'm gonna add a little more white to the forehead. Maybe a little more orange too. I know what you guys are thinking. You're looking at this going, wow, that is gross. That is terrible. And you're gonna probably think the exact same thing about your painting as you're going. But just stick with it. Don't judge it yet. Besides, you're not supposed to be judging this. You're just supposed to be taking, you know, maybe there's bad feelings or emotions, something you want to get rid of, put it into this painting. Or maybe there's a happy feeling that you want to remember. Then paint that into this painting. I'm going to put a little bit of a shadow right under here. See, and I'm not even worried about where the face is going to end because I can change all of that. Just kind of blocking in where the shadows, the light, and the individual features might be. All of this can be changed, covered up, made bigger, smaller, whatever. Actually, I don't feel like I have enough orange in there. I'm gonna get some orange. And we'll really brighten up this side. Under the nose there. And you can use your fingers if you need to kind of smooth out anything you don't like. And I like to give an ear, at least one ear. I don't know why. I paint abstract faces a lot like this, and I always tend to use the same blue and orange, and I always tend to give it one ear. And see, I'm not drawing an ear, I'm just blocking in a shadow. And let's give him some hair. So I have some blue, some black, some brown, some white. And let's throw some orange in there too. And on the hair, I am kind of alternating between using the flat part of the brush and the edge. You can do it however you want. Not real concerned about how the edges of the hair look here. We haven't painted the background yet. And so anything that gets away from you or anything you don't like, you can absolutely cover up when we get to the background. All right, now he needs a neck. So I'm just gonna do some blue and brown because I feel like I want his neck to be in shadow. And I'm gonna start right about here, bring that down, and here. We'll give him a shoulder that comes off maybe that way. And another shoulder that comes off over here. And then the same thing, just kind of fill it in however you need to. The one piece of advice I can give you while painting in this base color is to try and keep your brush strokes moving in the direction that the skin would be moving. So on the neck here, I'm not gonna go side to side. I'm gonna go up and down. So as you're going, just think about, you know, which way does the cheek go? Well, it kind of moves this way. The nose is kind of this way. You wouldn't paint in the nose that way. That's what's really gonna take all these random colors and pull it together in a face, is your brush directionality. While I was getting ready for this video, I kept coming back to this type of face because this is how I always paint abstract faces. But I was a little worried about teaching you guys how to do it this way because sometimes my abstract faces end up kind of looking like zombies. So if this ends up looking like a zombie, I apologize. That's just how I paint. So you definitely do not have to paint a zombie-like face. Just use the techniques and the advice that I'm giving you and make it however you want it. All right, there's our basic guy. That is all that is involved in painting in the colors for the face. So I'm gonna let him dry for just a few minutes and then we'll come back and start giving him some details. So now I'm gonna take my round brush and wet it in the jar and wipe it off on the edge a little. And what we're gonna do is just accentuate some of those shadows and highlights. So I'm gonna start with this eyebrow here. Now, instead of going at it with a completely different color, I'm gonna kind of look and see what I have in there, and I'll mix up something similar, but maybe a little bit darker. So in there, it's really muddy and gray, so I know that I used pretty much all of the colors. So I'm gonna get a little orange, a little blue, mix it with my brown, some white, and just mix up a color that's gonna blend in with that one, but not stand out so much. And I'm just gonna kind of darken that area up. I'm just pulling it down a little bit. Don't worry about your colors being blended. I'm gonna grab a little bit of white and just streak that down a little. And I'm just gonna kind of scrub at it in whatever direction you need to. And don't be afraid to wipe the paint with your finger a little bit. It's called full contact painting and it's totally acceptable behavior. So that's what I'm gonna do right now, is just go through, accentuate highlights and lowlights, and get my face ready for the details, which are gonna come next. If you put a really light spot next to a really dark spot like that, that helps to really set off the different dimensions of the face. So now that I've got this bright white spot next to this dark spot, That tells you that he has a very sharp cheekbone. This part is set way deep into his face, and this part is more prominent. I'm just going to insinuate a nostril there with a little bit of a highlight. And let's bring a bright white spot down the edge of his nose. So just gave a little bit of a shadow right behind that nostril that I created. And I'm gonna work on that lip, because I wanna make sure it stays nice and bright in here. But I also don't want it to be so monotone. It's just really kind of white. So I'm gonna add a little bit of a shadow there and there. Just kind of tap them in a bit. And this bottom lip, I want to make sure it stays nice and dark. So I'm gonna get some blue and some black. I still have white and orange and everything on my brush. And especially right here, I'm just gonna add a bit more of a shadow. Let me streak that over a little. Just kind of wherever you want it. And I'm even gonna streak that outside of his lip, just to say that there's a shadow coming from his face onto his chin. And you're probably looking at this right now going, that doesn't look like lips at all. And that's okay. And you're right, it doesn't. It doesn't look like lips at all. But the cool thing about painting like this is that, first of all, you can't do it wrong. There's not a wrong way to do this, because you're painting, you know, just whatever comes to mind at the moment. That's what you're doing. And nobody can tell you that what was coming out of your mind at that moment is wrong. This is your painting. It's however and whatever you want it to be. But also, even if you don't like it at the end, it's still gonna look pretty cool, and you will have learned something from it. Maybe you look at it and you think, oh, it looks way too much like a zombie, which my last one that I did, and I think that's the one I'm painting over right now, I kind of felt like it looked like a zombie. So when those things happen, then you just decide how you're gonna change that. You know, what exactly did you do that made it look like a zombie? Or what didn't you like about it? Look at those things and then make the changes as you need to. But I've painted dozens of these faces, and they all come out looking completely different. Some of them I like more than others, but they're all worthwhile to do. I don't want to take that dark up quite so far, because I don't want this cheek to be quite as dark as the other one. I'm just going to outline it with some white and then streak that in there. Let's get a little more orange in there. I feel like we're kind of losing our orange, and I don't want to lose the orange. So for this part here where I'm kind of scrubbing, you might not want to use a nice round brush. Use one you don't really like, or one that is kind of old and has lost its shape. I know this kind of look like a nice round brush, but I really don't like this brush, so I don't have a problem using it. Scrubbing with a brush is eventually going to ruin it. So that's why I say don't use a brush that you like for this part. get a little more shadow going on in his forehead. And just a little white there, and then I smeared it with my finger to blend it down toward the nose. Oh, that got a little dark. That's all right. Just gonna lightly streak some white over it and let it be a highlight area. Let's get some shadow in that neck. Just streaking it downward like that. But notice I went outside of his neck here and up here and everywhere. He's really fuzzy and messy, so please don't worry about that. I know some of you get really hung up on painting outside of the lines, but this is going to be a good exercise for you in not caring about that. In fact, mess with the size of his shoulder. Maybe you want to make his shoulder really big here. Or maybe you made his shoulder really big there and now you don't like it. Don't worry about it. We're going to cover all of that up. You're not even going to be able to tell. Just give him a really fuzzy line where his shoulder is going to be, and then decide how it moves and where it goes later. Need to get a little more orange because I'm going to amp up the highlight over here. And see, I'm not trying to cover all of that color that I laid down in the first place. I'm just redefining the shadows and the highlights. One more little shadow right along here. All right, let's paint in our background. So for the background, I'm going to use the 1-inch flat brush. And as always, I'm going to wet it in the jar and wipe it on the edge. And we're gonna really set him apart from the background here. And how we're gonna do that is I'm just gonna paint the background in black and white. And since to me this side is darker, I'm gonna make sure that the background over here is lighter. And this side is lighter on his face, so I'm gonna make the background darker over here. So I'm gonna start on the dark side and get some black. And maybe just a hint of white, not a lot. I want this mostly black. And I'm going to start cutting around the edge of his face. This is where you can say, oh, I think his face is too big here, and bring that line in a bit. See how far in I brought it? Bring it in. And I'm using the very edge of the brush. I'm making lines like that. I'm not painting around his face like that. Once you've got that line, then you can go ahead and just start streaking it in different directions. It can be really random. Same with his neck here. I can bring it in a little if I need to. If you're more comfortable doing this part with a smaller brush, that's okay. Use whatever you're comfortable with. See, that's why I told you not to worry about painting outside of the lines or getting his shoulder wrong, because you can fix it all. Same thing in his hair. I'm gonna start getting a little bit more white. In his hair, you can use the edge of your brush to cut into it. See, now he's got like a little point of hair that's sticking out. And we are gonna define all of that in a few minutes too. So just get your background covered however you need to. Cover up anything you didn't like. And as you go around, just start making it lighter and lighter. I'm gonna cut around his ear. I'm gonna give his ear kind of an angular type shape. And down into his face. Oops, that got a little away from me there. It's all right. Now I feel like his face here, well his neck especially, is a little wider than I want. So I'm gonna cut down around the edge of his face into his neck a bit. And bring that down. And same here. I think I'm gonna have his shoulder right about there. So he's just got a little bit of his shoulder showing on this side. All right, now I'm going back to my round brush and we're gonna start drawing in his details. And I'm gonna use black, but it's also really interesting if you use other colors. So if you wanna add some red lines or pink lines, yellow lines, whatever, you can add different colored lines anywhere you want. And I'm not gonna try and draw like an eyeball. I'm just gonna kind of indicate, let's see, I'll start with the eyebrow and I'm just gonna kind of sketch it. And then I'm gonna sketch where I think he's got an eye. Just kind of like that. And maybe I'll bring a little shadow down. And a little bit of a shadow here. And same thing on this eyebrow. This eye I feel like is in more shadow, so I'm probably gonna add a little bit more of the black lines here than I did on the other side. But see, I'm not painting it all in black, I'm just adding some black slashes to indicate direction and shadow. I'm gonna outline his nose a bit, but still just with the very streaky lines like I did in his eyebrows. Kind of a thin line. A little bit of one back there for his nostril. And let's do his cheek. See, I'm really just sketching around it. Give him a little line in there for his ear. Same on his jaw here. I think I'm gonna make some straight lines so he seems a little more angular. Okay, let's do his lips. So mostly starting with the inside where his mouth opens and insinuating these lines throughout. I'm not actually drawing lips. I think I'm actually gonna make that mouth a little bit bigger. I like that better. And then his hair. Same type of thing. Just little dashes where you feel like his hair's poking out. And along his forehead to break up the hair from the forehead. Now I've got my brush cleaned off and it's got quite a bit of water in it. I'm just gonna grab a little bit of black. So I've got a really wet black, which means it's gonna be transparent. And I'm just gonna kind of scribble in some shadows that are lighter throughout here. Don't worry about it if it gets to be too strong, because we're gonna fix any of that in a few minutes. So just get some kind of personality lines in here. Very, very thin black so that it's transparent. If you feel like you need to use your glazing medium for this part to get a nice transparent black, that's okay. Use your glazing medium. I'm just using the edge of the brush and scribbling it on wherever. And I'm not putting very much pressure on my brush. I'm really just using the very, very tip of the brush. All right, now we're gonna do the opposite. I have my brush cleaned off again. We're gonna get some white and we're gonna make some white highlights. So that's why I said if you hated something like that, just cover it up. Put some white over it. If you feel like you got too crazy right there, just put some white over it. See, I'm almost just like scrubbing with the very, very tip of the brush, just kind of like that. Just wherever you feel like he needs more highlight. And again, you can use glazing medium here if you would like. Give a little bright spot in either one of these so it feels like eyes. Let's put a little in his hair too. The way to really make your low lights pop is to add highlights, and vice versa. They look really good next to each other and they make things more dynamic. I'm gonna put a little bit in his ear even though it's really dark in here. In fact, painting abstract faces like this was how I got started painting in the first place. I was having a really bad day one day and I thought, I'm just gonna paint and not think about anything, just do it. I don't care what it looks like when I'm done, I'm just gonna do it. And So I did a painting similar to this without thinking about it, without trying for something in particular. And I came out with something like this, and I was really excited about it. It was the first painting I'd ever done that I was really proud of. So he did turn out a little bit scary, but I can't help it, that's just how I paint. But I am really happy with the way he turned out. I hope you guys learned a lot, and I hope you enjoy the techniques that I taught you here, even if you don't want your abstract face to end up being quite as zombie-like as mine. Be on the lookout for my new video set up soon. I should have my at-home studio painted and all ready in the next couple of weeks. So thank you as always for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.